Another quick video on Cadillac 472 500. One of the questions that comes up a lot is, how do I find a 500? I want a 500. Well, the main thing to look for when you're looking at engines is that rear sump oil pan. That's El Dorado. Front wheel drive uses rear sump oil pan. Rear wheel drive uses a front sump oil pan. That's the quickest way to know what you're looking at. For the most part, if you see a rear sump oil pan, think 500. If you see a front sump oil pan, you want to probably think 472. Now, that kind of changed in 75 and 76 because they did away with the 472 in those 2 years. So you can have a 500 in a rear wheel drive car, but it's only going to be 75, 76. So that brings up the question of year. And the next thing to look at is the pulley arrangement here and the distributor. If you look down here, there's only one pulley, one belt, and it's HEI distributor. HEI distributor came out in 74. So 74, 75, 76 had HEI distributor and single belt pulley. So if you're seeing those two items, in all likelihood you're dealing with a later model motor. Prior to that, prior to 74, it was a two-belt power steering system, and it was a points distributor. They had to change it in order to clear this distributor. So if you see two-belt and a points distributor, think earlier motor. That's the quickest way to look when you're glancing at it. Now, the other thing to look at, a lot of guys will tell you casting number on the block. That doesn't help you a lot. Almost all of these blocks are like 5,200 blocks. I mean, 472, 500, they all share the same numbers. Same block. The only difference is the stroke. It's the crankshaft that's different, not the block. Now, you can look at the block number. It's over here on the back of the block. But that's not really going to help you. A faster way is, if you can pull a valve cover, is to look at the casting number down inside. This one shows that it's a large chamber head. That would mean it's a later model motor, which makes sense because we have an HEI and a single belt system. So this is a 75, 76 motor. Now, there is another way to tell, and that's with a date code. Now, sometimes they're not so easy to read. The date code is right in here, and it usually is a 6, a number, and a Q. The number in the middle tells you the year. So for this one, we'd be looking at either a 5 or a 6. If you see like a 1 or a 2, then that'd be 71 or 72. So that's one way. The problem is they don't always stamp these well, so sometimes you can't read it. Plus, once you get all the grease and everything on there, they're really hard to read. So if you're out looking at motors, you might want to bring a brush or a little white paint to try and rub in it and see if you can read that date code. So use head number, look at the front. Now, if it's not a 472 or 500, one of the possibilities is it's a 425. If you go later, 79 and up, they had a single plane intake. So if you see a single plane intake, start thinking 425. If you see a bump across the valve cover from here to here, raised section, that's 425. But a lot of people swap them out. I mean, this is a 500, and that's got a 425 intake on it. The real telltale, if it's a 425, is you're going to have a box right back here instead of this dip. So if you see this cast-in block in this section, then that's a 425. You probably want to look at another motor. So the other telltales, the question becomes way early. The two motors that were way early are 68 and 69. And instead of having a water line off of here. This is the heater hose connection. It had it up here on the block. So if you see a heater hose connection right here underneath the thermostat into the block pressed in, that's probably a 68 or a 69 block. You can also tell real quick from that casting number that is where it does work out, because instead of being a 5200, it'll be like a 238. And that tells you it's an early block. Now the problem with early blocks is that they actually had a smaller oiling system and a smaller pickup. So the pickup tube is different. So if you're going to go, if you get an early block from like a Coupe de Ville or something, and you want to go to that rear sump pan to do a swap, you're going to have a lot of trouble finding a pickup that fits that, because the block is going to have to be opened up in order to fit the pickup that goes to that pan. The early stuff was not the same. So you wind up either having to fabricate something or, figure out what you're going to do. So anyway, that's a quick down and dirty when you're out looking at motors. Talk to you later. Bye.